It's very much a D&D style game, and like the skills are just like D&D, like strength, agility, things like that. Hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm Joycelyn, your player one, and today, Indie House, we've got Wayfarer by Idrelle Games. It is an interactive / visual novel, and it is a tabletop role-playing game, so kind of like D&D. The premise is you are a wayfarer, marked by a complete immunity to magic. Wayfarers travel the world, breaking curses, hunting monsters, and fighting magic when it spins out of control. Their order, once a powerful presence in the world, is broken, leaving behind only a handful of warriors still bound by their creed. When your mercenary work backs you into a corner, you take the only option available and accept a contract to travel to the city of Volantis and steal an ancient artifact said to be blessed by the gods. Simple, right? But Volantis holds more than you bargained for. Gathering a ragtag party of malecontents and renegades from across the city, you must navigate enemy factions, meddling guilds, and escalating political tensions. Your choices will ultimately determine the city's fate and the fate of every person who lives there. And the game is rated mature for 17 and up, and there is also content warnings for fantasy and medieval violence, depiction of blood and gore, death, explicit language. There's sexually explicit, suggestive themes, and drug and alcohol use. It is free, available on itch.io for browser. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to play. Right now, there's only 2 out of 15 episodes available. The first episode is a prologue, and then episode 1 is like episode 1. But there's only 2 available right now. Sorry. It was pretty easy. It's a tabletop role-playing game, so it's just a lot of clicking, basically. Lots of reading also. It's a visual novel and a tabletop role-playing game, so like both of those types of games have a lot of reading. This is very much a novel. And then there's also dice rolls for battles and some actions. The dice rolls in this game aren't actual dice. It is you choose each action and then you have a chance of failing or succeeding. And it's based off of your stats. And throughout the prologue, you're able to improve your stats. And then based off of who you choose at the end of the prologue to be your mentor, it improves your stats, and like things that you do throughout the game can improve your stats. It's very much a D&D style game, and like the skills are just like D&D, like strength, agility, things like that. I thought the UI was pretty cool. It's very user friendly. It is a little bit confusing at first, like all of the symbols and stuff, but you can always check them in the tutorial tab, and it tells you all of them at the very beginning of the game, so you're never like guessing anything. You just have to like find the tutorial parts. There's not really any graphics for this game at all, other than like the text on the screen. So it was a lot, because it's a novel, so like it's really just all writing. There are character designs, but you have to like look for them and like search to find them, and they're very small. It's like a button, and then you don't see the character at all. Like the entire game is reading. There's really no, like, if you're looking for a video game, this is not it. It's very much a novel that you just click continue on every page for. There's no music, no sound effects, no voice acting, which I feel like for this type of visual novel where it's just like a whole block of text and then another block of text after that, like over and over again, I think it would have benefited from something happening sound-wise. The story itself is very, very detailed, which is why there's so much text. It feels like a D&D game. Like, it's almost overwhelming, the different, like, words and everything, because it's like a fantasy game, so there's a lot of words that are just, like, not real or, like, made up places and things like that, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. But it's a very, very detailed story, and I, like, by the end of it, I was kind of getting the hang of the game. Like, I thought the story itself was very, very good. It was pretty interesting. I was intrigued. I don't know if I would continue playing it just because there was a lot of reading, and like even though I like reading, like it was a lot for me, especially since I sat down expecting to play a visual novel, and instead it was just a novel, and I clicked continue. Like it was so much so that I started skipping stuff, and I would just like if there was a choice I had to make, then I would read the page that I was on, but if there wasn't, then I would just skip forward by just pressing continue, like scrolling to the bottom and pressing to continue just over and over again until I could make a choice or do something. But I mean, that's probably just my least favorite part. Like I really did like the story. Like that's like the story was my favorite part, but it was just a lot and it was kind of overwhelming, honestly. There's just a lot of like it felt like it was a lot of detail, but it felt like a lot of filler, which is just not. And I think also if it was broken up more by like some type of visuals or like maybe music or something, it needed something. I mean, I definitely only recommend this game if you enjoy games like D&D and you really like reading. Like I said, I enjoy reading so much. Like it's one of my favorite things to do. But I don't think I would ever play this game again because it was just so much reading. And when it says visual novel, it's really just a novel. Like I don't recommend this game if you don't like to read, because that's all it is. Yeah, honestly, it was kind of boring because you had to commit to reading and just pressing continue and reading and pressing continue because it's like a whole wall of text every time. So my final rating for Wayfarer by Idrelle Games is a 6 tokens out of 10. Congratulations, Idrelle Games. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode of Indie House. Be sure to rate the episode and let me know your thoughts. I've got a Discord server called Indie House Official, which would be a great place to give your feedback and talk to me, my collaborators, or other listeners of the show. If you have any indie game suggestions, feel free to comment below or hit me up at indiehouse_pod on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag IndieHouseGaming. And if you would like to support the podcast and get some cool extra content, you can find the Patreon in the card. Catch us next week on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. See y'all on the next level. Bye!